would request students to hand over questions this side so that we can have really a very fruitful interaction.
Good morning, sir. My name is Deepika. I would like to ask, along with the government, are we the people of this country responsible too? You talked about 3 months delay in the vaccine. I think leaving that period aside, it would have been still faster than it was if there were no home science vaccines or rumors that vaccines will spread infertility. Unless our people will know what is right for them, how will we emerge and be the leaders globally?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. To that, I would say that science does not work on the path of least resistance. So we are not concerned about the people who will put resistance in our paths. That would be there. At the end of the day, we are concerned with delivering a product. That is what the vaccine was. It was a promise to deliver a product. And why was delivering a product? Let me compare it with Tejas. All of you know Tejas, light combat aircraft. Do you know who planned first for Tejas? Do you know the name of the Prime Minister? Take a guess. No, even before that. During the reign of Atalji, it had started doing its flight tests. So, I'm talking of 20 years. But it was like 40 years. So when you talk of the path, when you talk of delivering a product, ultimately Tejas is also based on Indian science and technology. Of course, a lot of it is you have imported technology. But at the end of the day, you are supposed to deliver a product, and that product is going to be purchased by either foreign countries or our own defense forces. It has been 40 years. Are we protesting? Are we clamoring for it? No, because we're not dying because India doesn't have Tejas, right? So the criticality was the speed with which that product has to be delivered. So you are absolutely right that some politicians wanted to scuttle it. They started saying derisively, this is Modi vaccine, this will cause impotency, we will not use it, and all those things. But the fact of the matter is that was immaterial. What mattered was saving a life that possibly doesn't even know who the Prime Minister is in the deep rural crevice of India, where people do not have a voting card. Saving that life, that was the responsibility of the science, and where every second mattered. It wasn't a question of delivering it in 40 years. It was a question of delivering it as soon as possible.
Hello, sir. Sir, how do we people make the politicians in charge put India first, make them prioritize India over their own vested interest?
Now that is, I really don't know how to answer it, because that is the one answer that everyone is looking for. How do we make the politicians accountable? And I think the real answer is, to be honest, to disappoint you, you really can't. You can't. And I'll tell you why. Because the politician always goes for his constituency. He knows it is a matter of life and death for him. So if there is someone who is going to vote for him and his step is going to take India back years, he will take that step. He actually will. Because ultimately he doesn't care for the long run. He cares for the next 5 years, and to be honest, the humans are conditioned to rationalize to the point of justifying our wrong steps. We always do that. So there are many, many of my right-wing, non-left friends who said that, look, we should be happy that we have a government where at least very slowly these steps are automatically being taken. Apne aap hi, we are providing a nice feel for it. It might not be doing a lot, it might not be doing fast enough, but come se kam, we have provided a kind of an atmosphere for doing that. I think that is a moral justification for not doing anything. As P.V. Narasimha Rao said, to not take a decision is also to take a decision. That is one of his most famous remarks. So you want a glaring example of, this question was the overturning of the Supreme Court Shah Banu judgment. The government had absolutely no role to do it. But it did it because it wanted to placate a community, a vote bank. It did it going against a woman. It did it going against the Supreme Court. The same is with the bank nationalization. It put us back decades. It was a Supreme Court judgment. And the government, Indira Gandhi, went against it. Because it wanted a cash cow. And you know what happened during emergencies. There's a very famous case of Sanjay Gandhi almost blackmailing the chairman of, I think it was State Bank or some other, public sector-owned bank. I want these many millions right now. He will slap that person. That is what happens. When government control things, they almost always work for their interests or for the interests of their vote bank. So, in very short, one-word answer is no, we would never. And I don't have the solution because I do not advocate anything other than democracy. Democracy is as they say, is the least of all evils. But the fact is, where do you go? It is certainly for a young person, it is demoralizing to the point of, capitulation. When the Supreme Court says, where are the people who are a pro step? I don't see them on the streets. If tomorrow there is something that is good coming out of a vaccine, the Supreme Court says, where are the scientists who are for that pro thing? Why are they in the labs working? Get them on the streets. Essentially, that is what people are. So, if anarchy is to be ingrained in us, then I'm afraid we are, this is not the kind of nation that you want to influence the world.
Good morning, sir. I am Neeraj Lalwani, and you quoted that to build in the global arena, people are needed to follow. But doesn't people need a good leader who can lead the country while in the same time it will have a positive output for everyone? Like as of now, India is in the Shri Narendra Modi's supremacy. What is the future aspect of leader when most of the states are being run by the same political mindset?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. Do we really need a leader at all? Considering that the Supreme Court and the courts now think that they are above the legislature. They are entering into the domain where they are deciding the size of the chappal, the size of the aloo bonda. And this is true. There is a Supreme Court judgment on how much aloo should there be in an aloo bonda. What is the point? What is the point of a leader like Narendra Modi saying that these are the farm laws? They were there in every opposition manifesto. Every farmer would be happy with this. This is going to catapult us into the middle income economy within 10 years. This is going to privatize. This is going to be a boon for all the other allied sectors. It is going to be a real cash spinner. And then a year down the line, he has to repeal it. Is that the leader we want? Answer is no. But then again, was Modi left with any choice? I personally would say, if I have to be really hard and say brutally honest, yes, he did. He should have stuck around. But he is a politician as well. Had he stuck around, farmers would have possibly. I think the biggest step for him to take this step was the Supreme Court not agreeing with him. I think that was really devastating when he saw that Supreme Court has said this, what is essentially a legislative action. There was very little hope. But to answer your question more deeply, when you say a leader, I am assuming you mean a political leader. Because there are a lot of leaders in India right now. And I would much rather the youngsters would follow them. I would much rather you follow Adani and Ambani than Modi or Shah. I'll be very honest with you. I'm sure even Modi and Shah follow Adani and Ambani, but everyone is forced to. But the point is, here you see an example of somebody trying to create something for Gujarat, for India, and him being pilloried a lot, him being made almost as a caricature of everything that is wrong in this country. Do the Americans criticize Bill Gates or anyone to the extent that Adani and Ambani have become as a symbol of repression and a symbol of oligarchy? So when the fault also lies with the polity, the fault also lies with the people. They themselves are not able to identify who their leaders are. What will the leaders do in that case? But to come back to your question, I'd much rather you identify and follow non-political leaders than political leaders, because more often than not you will be disappointed with the political leaders.
And you also said that because of Gujarat we can be the leaders soon, but in the state from last many years no leader is consistent, and without a proper leader how will this happen?
Yes, so as I said, out of 1800 public sector units, there always has to be an analogy to make people understand. Out of 1800 public sector units, we have 9 so-called Navratnas that are profit making. We are very happy with those. ONGC is one, and there are others. Without realizing that those Navratnas can be making 10 times the amount of profit, can be more competitive, can be shorn of the fact that they have gathered through their public sector life. So likewise, I would say Gujarat is still shackled because of its political, problems, or politicians won't allow it to come up with its true color. Let's put it that way. Gujarat is a Navratna, but it is still PSC. How about that analogy? If Gujaratis are allowed to compete and become like a California, Gujarat will overtake California. I have no doubt about that. But will it be allowed to do that? That's the question that Gujaratis need to ask.
Yeah, so good morning, sir. Myself, Chitra. And I had a question. Well, you correctly highlighted how important farm laws were for our country, and a lot of people opposed it. Not only the opposition, but farmers themselves were opposed, right? And our Prime Minister repeated the laws. So, how are we supposed to make a change when the Prime Minister himself wasn't able to? Well, you look up on us that we can change. Your last line was that we are young, we could make a change. So how are we able to when the leader himself is not in the power? I think.
Yes, you caught me there. You caught me there because you can't, because you can go against the Prime Minister and you can approach the Supreme Court. But what if the Supreme Court is also against you? What do you do? You approach the United Nations, those useless guys are anyway, they're not going to do it. I don't know what they're worried about. But you're absolutely right. The last recourse was the Supreme Court. You expect the Supreme Court to see sense, and when you said that the farmers also opposed it, I'm afraid you're wrong, because the data shows that the 86% of the farmers were for the farm law. The political parties were for the farm. The people who were on the streets, they were these, their word has been coined by our Prime Minister, Andolan, Ticket and all those people. They weren't real farmers. The real farmers could not come onto the streets because they were farming. They were producing for this country. You see cotton farmers in Gujarat. And here again, you want, how many examples should I give you? That agriculture is intertwined with science and environment. You talk of, I haven't even come to the genetically modified organisms. Do you know which state has taken the GMO and adopted it? It is Gujarat. Despite so much opposition. Why has it done it? It has done it because it sees sense. It has seen the controls, it has seen the failed experiments. It doesn't want to repeat those failed experiments. That is what enterprise is. Enterprise is not, let me try and repeat a failed experiment, let me try and keep on making a non-GMO, non-BT cotton and keep on spraying it with pesticides, thus ruining the environment and making those bugs, even pests, even more resistant to those pesticides and not helping me at all, cutting my income by 2/3. No, Gujaratis, farmers. And I'm not talking of farmers who had MBA degrees or are scientists or professionals or doctors or engineers. They possibly haven't even gone to school. But they knew. How did they know? That is what you as management graduates need to ask. How did a person who never went to school know that he wants BT cotton and not any other cotton? And now India has become one of the top 3 producers of cotton within a span of 10 years. And all that propaganda is absolutely gone to naught, to gutter. All those lies about BT farmers committing suicide, complete lies. You read peer-reviewed papers where it is exposed those. But the farmers know. The lobbies still are on their propaganda. But the farmers know the answer. And why would it come out that 86% of the farmers, Supreme Court Commission was for the farmers? And yet the Chief Justice stated. So there, young lady, you are absolutely right. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that we as Indian citizens could do, but watch it and be patient.
In that context, I have another question as well. You talked about river linkages being approved by Supreme Court as well. But what has happened in Gujarat just a month back, a river linkage project that was Par, Tapi and Narmada linkage, that project was cancelled, scrapped rather, just because there had been lots of protests. So my question is like, how to convince people, because these are all management students, some clear communication should be there for them. So probably you might have a lesson for them.
I think what you said is personally very hurtful to accept, but it is true. It is true because we have so many examples like that. Did you know that India, that was a world exporter of copper, has now become a world importer within 4 years? You know the reason why? Because for frivolous reasons, somebody saw the protesters, they closed down the sterilizer. Within 4 years from exporters, we have become importers. Who is responsible for this? Honestly, if it was left to the people, in fact, it is GLS, so law comes intrinsically to all of you. But I don't think India has this class action suit. I don't think, I might be wrong. Where millions of people should be allowed to sue the government, should be allowed to sue the Chief Justice. Why not? When the proof is in front of you that the farm laws are going to triple, quadruple a farmer's income. When you as business entrepreneurs have a choice to either go to the government market to sell your produce, whatever it might be, or to a private produce, and the farmer does. And the farmer is given a choice by the government and then it is repealed. I should be able to sue the government Because what you're doing is you're preventing me from earning more money. It is as simple as that. I should be able to sue the person who is not. I voted you in. You are responsible. You have a role to make me more prosperous. If through a policy that is sure to make me more prosperous, and it's not just the Prime Minister on a whim built out these farm laws, they were deliberated for 16 years in Swaminathan committees. That is the reason why they came on to the manifestos of all parties. It was not an overnight decision for every party to say we need these laws. It was in the building for 16 years. So the farmers knew that this is going to make them prosperous. But the middlemen knew that it is going to destroy them. So the middlemen came onto the streets. The farmers were in the field farming. If at all, I think what we need in this country, I think that has your difficult question has possibly brought out a seed of a solution. We need class action suits by millions of Indians to sue their government, to sue the Supreme Court, and then, but I don't know then again, if you sue the Supreme Court, if you sue the Chief Justice, who will hear your case? So that's the problem.
Hello, sir. I'm Milan. My question is, may I allowed to speak in English?
Please, बिल्कुल हिंदी में बोलो.
सर मेरा सवाल है कि आपने जितने भी डोमेन मेंशन किए हैं उनमें कहीं ना कहीं एक सेट ऑफ पीपल ऐसे आते हैं जिनका जिक्र हमेशा होता है और आई थिंक आज करना जरूरी है बिकॉज आप फॉर्मल लॉ ले लो या डिफेंस में आप राफेल डील ले लो तेजस ले लो उसमें कहीं ना कहीं वो सेट ऑफ पीपल थे जिन्होंने पर्टिकुलर पार्टी को टारगेट किया ना कि गवर्नमेंट और उस चीज से जो यूथ है उनको जो प्रॉब्लम हुई लाइक जो एनआरसी एक्ट में 12th के और 10th के स्टूडेंट को इफेक्ट हुई सर उस चीज को हम किस तरीके से डील करें या उसका सॉल्यूशन किस तरीके से लाएं बिकॉज कहीं ना कहीं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में कुछ तो लूप है जो उनको वो पावर देती है वो चीज करने में
आप राहुल गांधी की बात करें. तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि सबसे ज्यादा जो बीजेपी को जिताता है वो राहुल गांधी. सबसे बड़ी गलती अगर बीजेपी करेगी वो कभी नहीं करेगी वो राहुल गांधी को हटाने की 100 सीटें तो खुद ही जाता है. बट अब आप जैसे मैंने आपको फार्म बिल के एग्जाम्पल दिया उनके मैनिफेस्टो आपको मैनिफेस्टो आप उनका डाउनलोड करिए पीडीएफ पॉइंट नंबर 12, 13, 15 दे आर द फार्म लॉज. किसी भी मीडिया वाले में राहुल गांधी से लोग कहते हैं राइटफुली कहते हैं कि मोदी डजंट गिव इंटरव्यू प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस राइट बट व्हेन राहुल गांधी गिव्स is it not the media's duty to ask him why are these 3 farm laws in your manifesto and you are calling them black and you are against it? Nobody is asking. So you're right. I mean, and I'm sorry when opposition says it is the opposition's role to oppose the government. Of course, but oppose logically. I mean, there is, I don't know, there's as much sense in Rahul Gandhi as I say, is in consuming rasam with chopsticks. We can keep on doing it, but very short circuit hai. So, BJP requires Rahul Gandhi, but certainly India doesn't require Rahul Gandhi.
So can we say that the level of opposition has actually gone down?
See, I think the level of opposition has remained same. The acrimony has gone up. So the opposition has decided that come what may, we are going to oppose everything that Modi does. And I'll just give you 2 or 3 examples. When you had the Swachh Bharat campaign, and one of the most successful campaigns, I think 11 crore toilets have been made. It has not only led to the well-being of the people, there have been peer-reviewed scientific analysis done that have said that every such toilet has almost given 54,000 rupees to every family that has in terms of improvement. It has saved them 50,000 rupees. And yet the opposition said was against making this toilet because it said, this is delving into such a bizarre thing, that it is not allowing women their quality talking time when they go to the fields in the morning. This is true. When you oppose making a toilet like this, what can you do? That is a fit Bharat. इसमें कौन अपोज कर सकता है? पर फिट भारत को भी अपोज कर दिया, क्या ओबेसिटी चाहिए आपको इस देश में? I don't understand. जैसे I say कि अब thank God Modi doesn't say कि प्राणायाम करो तो सांस लेना बंद कर देंगे. So it is not that the opposition quality has gone down, it always goes down. It's the acrimony has gone up. So everything they believe that they are going to oppose everything that they do, which is a real tragedy. And what happens is that so much quality time of the government is spent in answering the opposition that the government doesn't answer logical Indians who want to ask this question. So Modi ji never answered Indians who were for the farm law. There was never, he could have given a press conference where you don't want journalists, but we take plethora or kind of Indians from every domain, scientists, engineers, managers, people, farmers. Talk to them and say, you can't after 1 year say that हमारी communication में कमी है. ऐसे थोड़ी बात है, you can't say that. So opposition is not playing its role. That is true. But the tragedy is the government playing its role. That is what we should be concerned with. That's it.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, a question from my side. You did mention in your session that the younger generation probably, so we have so much of youth energy today that in the next 20 years or 10 years, probably they will be on this side. I think I know the answer to my question is going to be a very long list, but can you, sir, highlight 2 or 3 major challenges for the next coming decade that the youth energy should focus on? Just 2 or 3.
So the biggest challenge is government control. And I think in anything that the youth does, there should be zero government control. And one of the real success stories of India has been information technology. Why on earth do you need an IT ministry? I don't understand. मतलब कोई चीज success, if it ain't broke, don't break it. IT functioned magnificently without the IT ministry. अब एक IT minister आते हैं, shipping minister, coal. This another promise that I forgot to mention was maximum governance, minimum government. ये उल्टा हो गया है पिछले 8 साल. We have increased the number of ministries. We have increased, and that is also because you want to placate your alliance, your association member as coalition dharma or something. It's not to that great extent in the NDA because it has a majority. Does it have a majority? I don't know. Some of the steps it is taking, I'm not very sure if BJP has a majority. But the point is, if you want the youth to prosper, they should not be able to get up in the morning, draw their curtains and see the government. Right now they do this and they see the government at least 6 or 7 times in different areas all through every single day. Every decision that they make, कहीं ना कहीं से government ऐसे निकल कहीं से ऊपर से नीचे से आ रही. You don't want the government. And that is the true unshackling. So I think the biggest challenge is not for the youths to think. The biggest challenge is for the government that taxes the thinking process of the youth. That has to change. And that cannot come from the youth, that has to come from the government. And here, can I also make, I forgot very briefly to tell you why I am for a welfare state. And the reason for that is that right now we are not in a situation to not be a welfare. And I'm not just talking of the Nordic model where they have a high tax regime and they have a welfare state. But the fact is we have a 515, 520 million strong labor force. In any competitive system, Darwinian or not, scientific or not, don't you want your workforce to be highly educated? Don't you want your workforce to be healthy, to be competitive? Otherwise, why? You have corporate social responsibilities. You have now a lot of companies paying from the CSR, lot of funds to make their employees very happy. Why do they do that? Because you want a very successful, happy, competitive, healthy, educated workforce. And that can, right now in India, can only come through a welfare state. And I think the Prime Minister realized this. And the reason why he has been re-elected in 2019 is because of those 3 or 4 schemes. I think we have to realize before we start influencing the world, possibly even now, I think Modi has realized we're not in a situation to do this. Let me get the people to that level where they are healthy, they are not scrounging for their next meal, they have their toilet, they have a tap water supply, the basic amenities. Let me give those first. Then let me go to the next level. I think he wanted to go to that next level, if you remember, during 2019 to 24, of course, COVID intervened. You remember in 2018, he said, next 5 years, I want to target the aspirational class. I think that's been delayed by 5 to 10 years. And I think he is simply working on delivering on those basic amenities where you have cooking gas, tap water, housing, health, residence, correct? So these things make for a ready, improved labor force. And that is why you need a welfare state, because a welfare state will cater to that. Will subsidize it. Once you have this system, by all means start removing the welfare state, and you even don't have to remove it, because you only have to know 10 to 20 years down the line, when people have the money, when the competitive labor force, a healthy labor force is able to compete and lands up a good job, starts to earn a lot of money. Next time a family member of that competitive labor force gets ill, you have a choice of going to a government hospital or private hospital. 99 out of 100 you will choose a private hospital. So what will happen is, as countries get more and more prosperous, if they are intelligent, they start junking socialism and the welfare state more and more, because in a competitive field, you cannot compete with capitalist force, and you must not.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ayush, and as you mentioned in your speech that
As you mentioned, you're not loud enough as a TV panelist, otherwise I will.
Sir, you mentioned in your speech that one single line of idea can bring a huge change. So let's say that in here youngsters, only one person has one good idea, but as you might have seen in previous movie, that before even exam, many foreign companies come to recruit youngsters for their own country. So don't you think government should do something to stop them or to influence youngsters' mind to work for their own country rather than other countries?
Right. So what we're talking about is brain drain. Right?
Yes.
Now, the thing about this country is that we have so much brain, we don't need to worry about the brain. And that 5-10% चला भी जा रहा है. And please remember, so we must not be scared of competition. You know, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi and Congress, socialists, they were scared of competition. That is why they were inward. That is why they were protectionist regime. Almost 97% income tax, and we protect everything. And that is how we ended up with ambassadors. Right now, you look at our cars, what Tata is producing, using engineers who are from all around the world. If there is a brain drain, then there is, I don't know what the reverse of brain drain is. I think it's called reverse drain. Reverse drain. Plus, in a competitive world, why should we be worried that Satya Nadella has gone there and is helping Microsoft? Not at all. Everything is for the global good. Indians are working in NASA, Indians are working in Sundar Pichai in Google. I think it's a matter of It's not pride, it's a matter of joy. That Indians have reached out and they've spread their tentacles all around the world. So I'm happy with the brain drain. How do we, instead of stopping it, we increase the amount of brain so that little bit of brain drain doesn't matter? That is what we need to worry about. We don't need to worry about the 5 people who go to America. We need to worry about why only 5 people are there who are capable. That if those go, we are left with nothing. That is what we need to. We need to make hundreds of people. So that if 5 go, we still have 95. That is what our government is doing.
So I have a question. As yesterday I was reading one article that said that probably Ukraine war might bring about a change in the scenario of globalization. So earlier it was COVID pandemic which prompted all governments to close their borders. And then now Ukraine war, where once again all countries have started becoming protectionist. So what is your take on this matter?
Here, if you permit me to narrate an anecdote, all of you must have seen Lagan. So in Lagan, I think Elizabeth, the main star, is trying to explain what cricket is. And then she asks, do you know what cricket is? And Mohan says, in the next 1 minute, he narrates what cricket is, yahan se yahan, yahan se wahan, and then I think Ram Singh is the thing, and Elizabeth looks at Ram Singh and says, ye main translate nahi kar sakta. So likewise, I know in the public domain, people ask me views on everything, but on Ukraine war, I really have no opinion. Okay. So, I think what has happened, first of all, I am against the war, the Russian war, because I think it's an independent country and if an independent country wants to join a NATO alliance, it is within its right. Why should some third country have any point of view? It's like saying that India cannot join this alliance or nobody can be allowed to join that alliance. And right now there are other countries, Sweden and Finland, who are joining NATO. That's right. So I think it was wrong. What it has done is, I think it was basically done on the ego and dreams and fancies of Putin. But he also has calculated, it was not a foolish thing, it was not an accident that he done it. If you look at the first week of the Ukraine war, the ruble really dipped and everyone thought that it's going to be destroyed. And right now it has now increased to levels that are greater than it was when it went to war. So he thought things through. Maybe for the next year or so, probably in 7 months since we had this war. And now with the winter approaching, a lot of European countries, including Germany, they have decided to relax all sanctions. Look at the hypocrisy. They were blaming India for buying Russian oil. Now they are buying Russian gas. They're lining up. So, as again to take Lagan's thing as Kulbhushan, ye pure log paap ki bhi sage nahi. But we need to stand independent and powerful. So, if we are getting oil from Russia, if we are getting oil from any third country or something like that, that is what real politics is. But I've said this, in order to bring stability, in order to bring democracy to the whole world, because ultimately there is another thing that Modi says, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and many people deride him for saying it. I think it's one of the most beautiful, I would say, ideas to come out from this country for thousands of years. This is scientifically the most robust idea, that the world is a family. We are not exclusivists. And we prove it. Indians prove it in everything that they do. We are one of the most friendly nations. We trade with 200 countries. We have one of the most friendly refugee policies. So in all the things that we do, we are for the climate deal. Even though, it will hurt us. We truly believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But the other thing you need to realize is that how do you stop people or how do you stop nations like China from being nations like China? How do you stop it? Well, the very easy thing to do is to stop trade with it. If you completely stop trading with a dictatorship, slowly the people will realize that yes, dictatorship is not the way to go. and they would come up and they would. So the way to go from dictatorship to democracy is to actually take the step, stop trading with dictators. If China, nobody were to trade with China, China would possibly the leadership or the people would rise up and make sure that China becomes a democracy. But you know what has happened in the last 2 years? Our trade with China imbalance has been the highest ever. Our imports have reached $125 billion. So when we were talking in 2020 about Atmanirbharta and we had all that fracas with China, we have increased our trade with China in the last 2 years. We should have gone the other way around. Our finance minister, our finance ministry should have made teams that went to all those companies who were investing in China. We will give you a better deal. Come and invest with us. And there have been authoritative surveys done that 87% of everything that we import from China can be imported cheaper from a third country. 87%. We haven't done it. We've gone the other way around. So when we talk of our position in the global world, we are actually inadvertently helping prop up China. We may say things that that we don't agree with China, that we are toe to toe with China, elephant versus dragon. But at the end of the day, we are paying so much to China that we are making China the economic superpower. Should we be doing that? Is that Atmanirbharta? That is what we have.
Why are we doing why government instead of doing it right and doing that talking about it, think of it by from the courts. What is your view on it and why government instead of doing it, we can supply like the countries like Sri Lanka and Pakistan who are already in a crisis and whatever this. What's your view?
I'm very sorry, I don't know much about this topic, so I won't be able to.
I have another question. And in last week, yes, we did and the opposition are now opposing all that by the courts and recently the case was suspended. So, what do you say?
Okay, it's got no relation to the topic, but very quickly to answer that, there is a GST council that is made up of all the states, BJP and non-BJP, that decide on what tax to tax and what not to tax. Secondly, a lot of the things that have been taxed or increased in tax, they were already increased during the UPA review. So this is actually, as the economist is saying, is a revenue neutral taxation decision. So I'm not against that.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Dr. Anand, and I have two quick questions. One is, how should we deal with China, politically, militarily, and economically in the same? Second is, what are the forces which are forcing India not to do privatization of defense and some other industries like space also, as America has considered making DARPA, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing and other things. Two questions.
No, absolutely. So as far as China is concerned, I already said, I think if we, and I've said this before, there is something called the concert of democracy. That is, people have tabulated, so there are 60 democracies that are truly democracies, and India is one of them. Don't go by what Rahul Gandhi says India is a functioning autocracy or something like that. India is a democracy. And he can only say those things because he is in a democracy. So these 60 odd nations, and I've said this before 6 years ago, they should be trading with themselves. Some of them are oil rich, some of them are source rich, some are whatever. And we must stop, and this is a long run, you can't immediately stop importing oil from dictatorships and all that, like Saudi Arabia and all that. We need and everyone does it. I'm talking of the long run. And that is the only way that, and this would not only help India and India, it would help the Chinese as well. Everyone wants democracy. Nobody, you see what is happening in China right now with this really silly and bizarre zero COVID policy. It is devastating the population. In fact, if it was a democracy, people would have revolted already. And right now, hardly anyone is wearing masks. Everyone has probably been exposed to COVID, the B5 variant and all. In China, everyone would be wearing a mask. If someone was caught everyone would be tested to come in and this, kind of harmless, quote-unquote harmless Omicron variant. That is all because one person decides what is to be done. And, the country follows it, 1.3 million people. So, to help those people usher in democracy, we must stop trading with it. But our people have to realize it. I don't know, of course, I'm a commentator, so I'm not privy to maybe the government in its wisdom decides that, look, we really cannot source this from a third nation. But what about the study that says 87% has been, that's the government study. So, there I think we've been caught being lazy, to be honest. Because we can give a lot of incentives to people who are willing to invest in China, to come to India. We always give incentives, tax incentives for land, whatever. We should have done it, in a real, very fast and a very dedicated way. We should have made teams like that. And as to your, the second question was,
which are the councils which are forcing us not to do privatization?
Right. Yes. So, as I said, I gave that the ratio index of Dr. Kalam from 30% in 1992, we have now increased to 64% indigenous. In fact, Army, this is 64% is average of the three armed forces. Air Force is 50-something%, Army is even 74%. So this is a good trend, good direction. We have almost doubled our indigenous sourcing. As to whether we should have 100% sourcing, there again, there are experts who would disagree that if there are better systems to have, then our defense should not be at the cost or at the mercy of something which is only second rate or not at that level. So if we don't have Tejas which is at the level of Rafale, we should not just buy hundreds of Tejases and not Rafale. So I think we are getting there. We should. It's only a matter of time.
Yes, please. Good afternoon, I hope you're talking back. Yes. The question
You would be an excellent news anchor.
my question is that we come to a line. We talk about federal welfare state. We talk about welfare state. Most likely we talk about especially the objective that we have put it on our economies. Setting up a welfare state at this point in time to back at least 5 years. What do you think of that? Enough space, right?
That's a great question. When I say I'm for a welfare state, kind of your counter argument, your devil's advocate, that is also going to push back the country. You're absolutely right. But as I say, a welfare state or a socialist state is only possible in a capitalist system. So when you have a welfare state, you define what are you going to subsidize. If you're going to subsidize education, you obviously have to subsidize defense, procurement. You have to, you need money for that. Let's put it that way. You need money for the basic amenities. That has to come from the taxes that you get from having a completely free market capitalistic economy. So you unleash this side to get money from it, to pay for. You're not robbing them. Well, taxation is kind of robbing, but it's not that drastic. So you don't have any state, for example, you don't have any PSUs. But at the same time, you have private sector giving you money. That is how America earns money. You have one Apple, you have one Google, you have all these companies who are giving billions of money to America for them to do, for subsidize, their farmers or whatever the government does. So I'm not saying that socialist state is good. Absolutely not. I'm saying that you need for the time being a welfare state, but it has to be in a capitalistic system. The government has no business to be in business. Government should not be. But the government can and should tax businesses that are private, and with that tax money, it can, for example, let me give you the example of vaccines. 2 billion, almost 3 doses. Did we want that? Of course we did. Now, is there anyone in this hall, including me, who said no? Someone who doesn't even earn 600 rupees in a month should be paying 600 rupees for a shot of vaccine? That is cruel. So I want the government to pay. I want the government to administer the vaccine free of cost. I want it to the poor people. And I wanted that cess. I am willing to pay for it. But that doesn't mean that the government should put me in a public sector unit. The government should allow me to earn money. From that money, through my private means or what enterprise, from that money, the government should keep on taxing Adani and Ambani. But let them be Adani and Ambani. Let them not be, bank clerks in a public sector unit bank. Yes, as I said, you need a healthier workforce. If you have what India had for 30-40 years, really malnourished people, IMR so high, MMR so high, children ridden with polio, debilitating disabilities, diseases, you are not going to have a healthy workforce. And remember, it's only, people join the workforce so quickly, from 10-year-old child to 14, which is illegal child labor, from 14 to 18 to just 4 years. People are entering the labor force early, and you want them to be healthy, you want them to be educated. So yes, but what is the way forward for it? I think the government has cracked it with this Ayushman Bharat thing. It is excellent. You have the insurance also, and you are propping up, and you have the health scheme as well. So yes, of course.
So sir, I have two things. First of all, good afternoon, welcome to Ahmedabad. Firstly, you asked your first question, in which domain we were expert in 15 and 16. So I had a submission, probably a little harsh to all of us and probably lighter. We were expert in slavery.
Slavery?
Yeah, probably we lost it in 1990s. Probably some portion of it remained. The masters are outside India, but that was the only thing which we inherited for those 200 or 500, 600 years of Gulami we had. The question which I have is, why not a lot of technocrats join the government forums where the country is being represented in global forums? So like I follow Ashish Chandorkar, who has joined the WTO, and I love the way Mr. Jaishankar handles the government at the global forum, but not a lot of people coming up to that kind of stage representing the country with a proper and sophisticated view and putting the best foot forward for the country.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question. I think the government has introduced what it calls a lateral entry. So there are a lot of people who are entering the government, but as I say, more than thinking laterally, you must think collaterally. We don't, and I'm constantly, always, to the point of obsession, trying to be reductionist and trying to remove the government's role from our common day life. So I know Ashish is a very good friend, and so are so many others who joined. But I don't want Ashish to be in the government. I'm sorry. Ashish is listening there, please pardon me. You're a star, but government has no business, not only to be in business, but to be controlling it, to be going to conferences, to be just remove the government. Ashish is a star irrespective of being in the government. His voice needs to be heard not from a government podium, but across the board. So likewise, foreign relations, do we need a foreign minister? As I said, of course, at this point of time, it would be foolhardy to not have majority of the ministers that the government has. But surely there are some that, shipping minister, and there is a fisheries minister, there is a minister of statistics, there is a minister of program implementation. You don't need ministers. Come on, they're just there to placate or to increase the bulk of the thing. You need to be not more than 10 ministers should be there in every government. Huge, yes. I'm here, my slide is taking, so as many questions unless you fine, thank you. You mean the reservation system is removed from the card? So the reservation system is removed. Right. Look, so right now, I'm personally not for the reservation system to be removed. There is a talk that people have said that when Dr. Ambedkar was there, he said that the reservation system could be there for a limited period of time. There is discrepancy of the reservation of 10 years or 30 years. But politicians being politicians, now we know that no politician will have the guts to remove the reservation system. In fact, they are pitching somehow to increase the reservation. So if Supreme Court, that restriction wasn't there, I think it's 50%. I think they would have increased it by now. It has a cost. There is a justification for reservation system because obviously, to an extent, you had a huge chunk of population that was deprived, that was cruelly dealt with, and as a result, the present generation is paying for the sins of our forefathers. I don't mind that, but I want us people to be grateful for that. I am grateful and I thank the younger generation that you are doing it. That you are not casteist, you have not committed any sin or bigotry, but you are quote unquote, not just quote unquote, actually suffering because our forefathers may have or possibly committed some sin. So my heartfelt, formal thank you to the younger generation. I really want to do that. Is because not only are you suffering because of this, you are being made to feel guilty about it. Every politician thrusts this upon you, makes you feel guilty that you are privileged, you are privileged, you are privileged, you must do this. It is your duty. Every leftist will vote and everything. Yes, you must do it, but I thank you for doing it because you did not commit a sin. Where is it written that a person who is not guilty should be put behind bars or should suffer? In a sense, that is what we're doing. You must do it because a huge chunk of our population, they still are underprivileged or unprivileged. Although many of them, you have always this constant demarcation of creamy layer, uncreamy layer, or whatever it may be. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people who are much more prosperous than you, the general category, are still making avail of the reservation system. They are much more richer, they are more prosperous, they are more privileged, and still Lalu Prasad Yadav comes to mind. But the fact of the matter is that I do sincerely want to thank you, and this is my opportunity to say thank you for doing it because you did not oppress anyone, but you are paying for the sins of your forefathers. Which other country does it? I don't know. A lot of countries do it. But I want to thank you.
I have been told that this is the last question that we are going to ask. So my question goes to the first pillar that we discussed today. So do you think the last one that was related to education, if I'm not wrong? Yeah. So my question is, do you think we are the fruits of the distorted history seeds that have been instilled in us? And do you think that history has been written or created by the believers of grey, as you said in one of your interviews, if I'm not wrong?
Yes, absolutely. And I said this before and I say it again, that nations weaken not because of their past, but by how they are taught. That is how nations weaken. Nations always recover. Always. Destroyed nations, scorched earth nations, they always recover. It takes maybe 20, 30, 40 years. You look at what Japan was at the end of World War. Totally destroyed. Germany. They recovered in 30, 40 years. You look at what Korea was in the 50s, in the 60s. You look at South Korea now. You look at what China was in the 80s. You look at what China. So nations always recover because the people have it in them to recover. But this is not a question of nations recovering. This is a question of nations being perpetually weaker, getting more and more weaker. And if we don't know our own history, if we know what were our heroes, what were our policies, what were our reactions to other states, what were our inventions, what were our leaders like kings maybe or others, if we don't know that, then we are always clamoring for something which is not with us but away from us. Be it ideology, leftist ideology, or any other incrementally. We want to latch on to it without realizing that we always had it. So, but what can I say? Here the problem is not amongst us. We have education ministers who say on record they are proud to not even change one full stop. So, it is not a question. It is not a question of 5 years. It is a question of 50 years. The politicians are there only for 5 years and they worry only for that limited time. But if you keep on prescribing the same books that eulogize Mao, that eulogize Che Guevara, that eulogize Tipu, you will keep on having people who will go to Mazars of Aurangzeb who killed 4.9 million Hindus, who beheaded Sambhaji, beheaded Guru Bahadurji. You will keep on having people who go to his Mazar and worship. They don't know. They don't know better, and we've not told them better. So yes, this problem is what weakens us. And if you believe I'm just talking of philosophical weakening or metaphorical, no, this weakens us truly to the extent that you will form governments that espouse to such wrongful history, and those governments will then take decisions that would physically weaken our nation. As we know what happens when communists try to arm twist the UPA in not accepting the US nuclear deal. If the communists were in power, they would not have done so many things that were in national interest. So it hurts us by not knowing our true history. That is one thing that you are absolutely right, and thank you for bringing that up. That was indeed the fifth column that I should have talked of, but I did not.
So before we wind up, I have this last question. Where do you see India at 100 years? India at 100 years?
2049, 2047, 2047. So let me go one by one with all the domains, because I've framed our influence with those 4 or 5 domains in mind. Let me answer where I see them, where I see ourselves in 2047 in those domains. I see India as a real world leader in the domain of science and technology. No doubt about it. In 2047, we would be sending most of the satellites into space. We would have landed in Mars. We would have taken Rahul Gandhi and put him in Mars. That we would have done. But brought him back because it was important for people to get transit. But in science, we would be very successful in biology, in biologics, slowly in the field of innovation. Did you know that we are the largest patenting nation in the world? But we are one of the smallest nations whose patents people buy. Now you see the dichotomy. So we take pride in fact, the minister took pride in the fact that we patent the most things. But what's the point of patenting if nobody buys your invention? The real thing, as I said, is not GDP but GDP per capita. You should be concerned with how many people are buying your patent rather than how many inventions, quote unquote inventions you patented. But slowly that ratio is going to improve. So that's science taken care of. Agriculture, we would be here down in the dumps. Nothing is going to change. It is going to get even worse because we are not going to shift 44% of our workforce to other sectors of the economy that we must do. Because Western nations have only 2% of their labor force, as I said, 2 or 3% in agriculture. We must get people away from agriculture. And when I say this, I don't demean our farmers. In fact, I hold them in higher esteem. We want that part of economy to be much more flexible. It is right now it is the most inflexible. At the end of the day, you need food on your table. Does it matter if that food is being produced on an Indian farm or a foreign farm? No, it doesn't. What matters is the quality of the food. But the point is, if we are producing it at an Indian farm to satisfy our ego and leverage our farmer vote bank and paying 10 times the cost that we would if that farm was procured from outside, doing 10 times more damage to our environment. Water guzzling, taking 10 times the amount of water. Whom are we harming? So in agriculture, we are down in the dumps. The third was, I think, defense that I talked about. We would be almost entirely indigenous. We would be exporting a lot of our weapons to a lot of third world countries, which may include Pakistan. Some of our weapons to Pakistan, I would say, sugar or to Gandhi culture. The other was the government, the PSU thing. I feel there would be a I truly feel it because I think, and that is largely to do with people are seeing the success of Adani and Ambani. So that's less to do with the government, but more to do with the question that somebody asked, who should be our leaders? And people will slowly realize that our leaders are not political leaders, but they are business leaders. So that switch will come. It already has come with Air India, privatization of Air India. It should slowly come with privatizing everything. Government does not own anything. So that was the third thing. The fourth was environment damage. It would take us at least, I think, double that amount to mitigate the damage that we have already done. I mean, our water level is so down, pesticides and everything are so seeped in. We are a growing economy. We would continue to have, I think, coal power in spite of the very laudatory steps that Modi government has taken to have renewable energy sources, and I think 600 gigawatts is the capacity, which is way over what we are producing now, but it's a fantastic theme to do that. We would take more than 2047. But on the whole, I see a very healthier India, very healthy India, educated India, prosperous India, and a lot of it to do with privatized India and a prosperous Gujarat.
Distinguished dignitary of the day, Professor Anand, invited guests, my colleagues and students. Indeed, a matter of pleasure for me to propose vote of thanks to GLS University. With the intention to inculcate global perspective towards business among students, GLS has been organizing a talk show revolving around international affairs for the past 5 years. I would like to put on record our sincerest thanks to Professor Anand, who readily accepted our invitation to enlighten our students on the emerging influence of India in global arena. There are things to be proud of when India is in Amrit Kal. However, your discourse has drawn attention to areas which need improvement. You have shown us the way how India can become a combination of soft power and hard power. What I have understood is that at 75, India needs introspection. We are all inspired by your riveting speech and electrifying interaction. I take this opportunity to express my gratitude towards GRS University for giving us a free hand to organize such events. I am indebted to all our guests who took time of their busy schedule to grace the event. A special thanks to our Dean, Dr. Shafali Dani, who is not only our mainstay but also stirs us to do our best. I would like to appreciate my colleagues for their enormous cooperation in the organization of this event. I would be failing in my duty if I did not thank our students who have made this event a big success. I would like to thank all those who are directly or indirectly involved to make this day memorable for all of us. Last but not least, a big thank you to each one of you for being with us.